Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to rank and tier stuff with Henry and Pez. So we took a little hiatus last week because Pez went on vacation, but we're bringing back Let's Rank stuff, but we're doing it with the aesthetics of tiering because it's just visually pleasing for the eye. So we're combining the ranking with the tiering and Friday the 13th. This is a franchise that is culty as it gets in terms of like you're either all in or you're all out. Like there's not many people that are like lukewarm on the franchise. You're either a diehard Friday 13th fan or you're like, this sucks. So it's one of those things where it's like the tiers is this is a perfect example of like why we would tier, this instead of like rank the franchise. But generally speaking, A, how are you? And B, what are your overall thoughts on the Friday 13th?
No, man, I'm good, man. It's good to be back with you. Always fun to do shows with you and just talk these franchises and things. And yeah, Friday the 13th. Well, I think we said during our Halloween thing that might be my overall favorite just because of the kind of mythology it brings about and the interpretations and the character Michael Myers, things like that. I do enjoy the Friday the 13th series a lot, and it's one that I've talked about my Blockbuster days back in the day, Henry, and how I just rented literally every single one of these things and just whatever was out at the time and just ran through the whole series. And I will say it's probably, and this has been talked about before, maybe the most consistent franchise as far as like giving you what you want.
Like it's promises, like it doesn't veer away.
The premise is, we'll talk about a couple of the movies, but like for the most part, you grab any given Friday the 13th movie, you're going to get Jason or an amalgamation of Jason killing people in brutal ways, mostly at this camp, you know what I mean? And characters you may or may not care about, or they've to varying degrees, but you're kind of gonna get what you expect, I mean, it's a various levels of polishness and sort of how well done they are. But you can grab any one of them and I think find something in it. So yeah, it's not as deep as some of the other franchises, but it's very consistent. So I mean, I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only thing that's really missing is like a main final main character to go through. Like we have Tommy, in a couple of them, and then the main girl in the first one. I blank our name right now. Didn't go back and research
Alice, I think.
Yeah,
Alice.
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
And then dude from Supernatural in the remake. But I mean, other than that, those are the only like people you think of other than Jason Voorhees and apparently Pamela. When you think of this franchise, so it's one of those ones like you said. It's you go for you show up for what you're showing up for. My dogs are barking, and yeah. So with that said, let's go ahead and bring up the tier and let's see what we're talking about today. So as always, got to add a little spice into our names here. So
it's one of my favorite things about us doing this now is just like we can get goofy names for all the tiers. Yeah. It's fun.
Because our tiering is not based on really quality; it's our overall thoughts on the franchise and how we separate them. So yeah, the names don't matter. So first up, Jason, this is your mother because a lot of people that's a lot of their people's favorites things. Jason and Pamela Voorhees. So I figured I'd throw that in there with that, and it's kind of one of the more common themes that gets said throughout the movie. And then Camp Blood, that's probably the second most popular premise in the entire thing.
Camp Blood, ain't you? It's got a death curse.
And then right in the middle is a Sackhead because no one hates Sackhead Jason, but no one really loves it.
But when people name like their favorite like look of Jason, it's not really Sackhead Jason.
Yeah. But they also don't technically hate it, So it's right in the middle.
It's unique. It's unique, yeah.
And then we kind of combined on this next one: 3D graphics, 1D characters.
Yeah.
Basically, the majority of these characters in this franchise, regardless of what you think of the films as a whole. And then final is hell and busted doors. You bust some doors and go to hell. That's just it's nothing but damage. Damage of our hearts and our minds dealing with it. So as always with the tiers, we're talking about the franchise as a whole, so we can go in order based on release. So we're going to start off with the original Friday the 13th. I'll let you kick it off. What are your thoughts on this movie, Earl, and where are you going to put it?
Yeah, so I know it's like the one that kicked everything off, and but you'd be surprised. I think I'm kind of with a lot of the horror community in this one, where I think it's okay, but I think it's very basic. So for me, the original is in the Sackhead category, kind of right in the middle. It kind of, again, it checks off a lot of the boxes. It's it gives you, Tom Savini has obviously, he jumped into the franchise, gives us some good effects, a couple of decent kills. I don't think there's anything overly memorable about any of the kills, maybe other than the Kevin Bacon one is probably the best one with him laying on the bed and the hand and then the, arrow from under the bed. I think that's pretty cool and unique. I think I think her name's Alice, the final girl. This one is all right. She's all right. And I do think it really only kind of gets any sort of major respect in the horror community in that it has the Pamela Voorhees reveal, that it's not Jason, it's not a guy really, it's an older lady, which is an interesting reveal, and it's the only glimpse we kind of get at starting the sort of mythology of Jason, of this kind of backstory that it's like a revenge movie, from her perspective, even though the characters she's directly killing don't really have anything to do with it. She's just a twisted, warped psychopath. But, I think that's the only reason it kind of stands out. Other than that, I think it's kind of slowly paced. I don't get into a lot of the, I think it's entertainment value. It's all right. The kills are enough to keep me engaged for the most part, from start to finish. It's not too long. But I do think the last 15 minutes or so, when Pamela kind of does her reveal and kind of spouts her little monologue and some of that, there's not much of a fight between the two. It's like she gets hit a couple of times. There's a very brief chase and she gets beheaded. It's not much to it. It's like, and that's it. But the final little jump scare vision thing is pretty cool. I think that was pretty unique for the time, with
whether it was real or not or whatever.
Yeah, and but the actual jump scare is pretty good. Yeah. It's regarded as a pretty good one. So again, it's kind of middle of the road. It's it's okay.
Yeah. So for me, I guess my biggest thing for me of why this one's always been good for me is because I'm a huge Psycho fan, and it's clearly homaging / ripping off like just the general premise of Psycho, with the Norman Bates thing. With obviously the score is clearly reminiscent of the Psycho score. It has those the similar beats and tones that it's going for. So it does a good job for me for filling that void. Like if I've rewatched Psycho a bunch recently, so when I watch this one, it's like, oh yeah, this element's like an updated version of it. It's essentially like a remake, but like its own story. So I've always been in the Camp Blood part of it. It's right there for me because it's not my favorite, because obviously there's no real main character to attach yourself to, but just the mystery and the score, and then the well pace. I mean, it's slow. It takes its time with it, but it's similar to like when you watch like Sleepaway Camp, how a lot of the kills are happening, off screen, or like it's in the dark because it's the mystery. So that's a lot of fun with it. And then when you get the reveal, you're like, holy cow. Cause it's one of those things where a lot of people are like, oh wow, you, and then you realize it's because or what are you doing here or whatever. It's because it's Pamela Voorhees, and everyone's got their guard down. So it's like, obviously, because you can't really question it, because it's like, yeah, their guard's down. So of course an old lady is going to be able to, kill him, because catch him off guard. So it's always been a fun time for me. It's never going to be like S tier in terms of like horror in general, but for this franchise, it's definitely, towards the top for me. So the second one, on the other hand, is one of those ones where it doesn't do anything like new to like really stand out. Like you have the character from the first one, Alice. I guess we're agreeing that's her name. We're not fact checking. That's Friday the 13th for you. We're sticking with the franchise. There's no fact.
The second one has the beginning prologue thing with Alice getting dispatched, which really doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's
kitchen.
Like because like she's in like another state or something, and like how did Jason get? I don't know. It raises a whole bunch of questions. I just don't like when they dispatch a character that survived the previous movie. I'm just not a big fan of that.
And that's an ongoing thing with this franchise until we get Tommy, where it's like, all right, the main character is really not the point. But with that said, it doesn't do anything like atrocious. It's not really boring per se. It's just another one of these movies that it's exactly what you showed up for. You know what I mean? So for me, it's going to. I'm going to put it in Sackhead. I'm going to be nice, because I can watch it and not hate myself. And I feel like that's important for like these types of movies, where it just depends on my internal emotions when watching it, because I have movies, on this list particularly, that are going to be higher than usual or lower than the consensus, just based on how I feel when I watch it. It's not, I don't let other people's opinions, gauge how I feel. And if I'm watching and I'm bored, then it's going to be lower, regardless of what people think. Or if I'm liking it, I'm not bored, but I'm not also overly engaged either. If I'm real neutral, so this is literally neutral. It's second. It's fine, and it's literally second. Oh no, yeah, it's second. It's actually second Jason.
Yes, it
and
is.
I think that's the thing. You introduce the Jason part, you're intrigued because you're like, all right, we got something going. And I do like the third act of ironically, the Jason, this is your mother speaking. So it's not in that tier, even though it's technically named after this movie. But yeah, it's fine. It lets me know that I don't hate this franchise as a whole because this movie's watchable. So I'm gonna put it in the middle.
So part 2 was a wild card for me. I hadn't gone back to it in a while. I have my ones that I kind of are my go-tos, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. So I rewatched part 2, and I liked it more than fine. This isn't a Camp Blood for me. I thought it was, and a lot of that has to do with Steve Miner shoots this one, who did both parts 2 and 3, and he went on to do like Halloween H2O. He's like a pretty prominent horror director. I think he directs this movie really well. I think it looks really good. I think it's paced really well. I think even some of the kills have a style to them. The guy who gets it in the wheelchair, and you have that really great shot of him getting it and going down the stairs, with the lighting. I think it looks really good. I think there's some pizzazz to the movie. I just think there kind of is. And I think the main girl, Jenny from this one, is like fairly likable. She's fairly smart. What she does with the mom thing, she kind of figures it out pretty quickly and kind of uses that as a ploy. So like, I think she kind of, she adapts pretty well. And sure, it has all the little cliches, people hanging out of trees at just the exact right moment, and all the cliches of the franchise, coming across those people. It had a guy from Chopping Mall in here that I didn't realize was in it. So I recognized him really quick. He's like the really, really tall, handsome guy that gets knocked off like halfway through the movie. But yeah, I just think it's just done really well. I think it just has a little more flair than some of the other generic sequels, and we'll talk about his follow-up in a second. But yeah, I really like that third act. The only thing that really doesn't keeps this from the top tier is the prologue. I just don't like it. I think it's out of place. Yeah. It doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. It feels like a whole different movie, and then we kind of cut back to the thing. But when we get back to the camp with the actual characters, I'm all right with it. I like the campfire stuff when the guy's telling the story. Like, I think it's got a good atmosphere. I like this movie. I think it's really well done. So yeah, it was a pleasant surprise going back to it. I hadn't seen that one in a while.
There you go. Well, I'll let you continue and talk about part 3. 3D.
So part 3, yeah, also directed by Steve Miner. I debated this one a lot. Overall, I put it in that middle sackhead territory as well. I think it's okay. It's another one that's just kind of okay. It kind of, again, it gives you all the standard kills. I think there's at least a few unique things with like the biker gang, getting it in the barn. But it's kind of interesting that the main setting of the movie isn't really much the camp. It's like this barn or this farm and farmhouse. Like it's kind of strange. It's like adjacent to it, I guess. Like it's nearby. But yeah, I think it kind of freshens it up a little bit, opens it up for some new kills with the pitchforks and the ropes and the at least a few unique things. Obviously, he gets the hockey mask in this one, so that's pretty cool. I think Richard Brooker does a good job as Jason. I think he's kind of hulky. He's kind of short. He's a little shorter and stockier, than some of the later guys. Yeah, he's got that thick head and neck. Yeah, it's like that neck is just like it's such a target. You should just go for that. Yeah. Oh my god, it's like bulging out. But yeah, the 3D stuff is very gimmicky. Obviously, as most of those movies that came out in the 80s, Jaws 3D and Amityville 3D and this 3D. So there's a lot of gimmicky stuff. The only stuff I really don't like is those like. There's like the hillbilly characters or whatever that like pop in and out of the movie. Then I'm just like, like I could do without them. I could just do with the kids. But again, it's pretty standard, but it gives you what you want. And I do like the stuff at the end where she like hits him with the axe and then he just like puts the hands up and keeps coming. It's like, it's genuinely kind of like, whoa, like, oh shit, like what's it going to take? Like it's pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, it's fun enough. So I kind of put this right in the middle tier.
Yeah, so for me, just a little disclaimer: the first 4 I've watched all 4 times each. Like every time I do my rewatch, I've started with the first 4, and then it took me until recently to finally finish the franchise. So I've seen every movie twice, but the first 4 I've seen 4 times each. So like my opinions are really stable on those. And 3 is one of the ones where I've been always a fan of it. Like that the final hour is just nonstop action, and like even though I do like the first half. the last 45 minutes to an hour where it's just nonstop is nonstop. And that's the thing that like makes me, that's the first, one of the first things I think of with Friday the 13th. So it's not quite Jason is Your Mother, just because once again, there's really no like character to like attach to. And that's important to me just for a franchise, but it's always going to be right there at Camp Blood. And it's right. It honestly goes back and forth with part one for me. So like any given Sunday, like those can swap. But yeah, this is a movie that's just a lot of fun. And literally every time I rewatch this movie, and then I like watch other people's rankings or reviews, like, you know, that's what I do a lot. Like, or I watch reactions. Now I watch a lot of YouTube reactions, and when I watch and I see other people's opinions, I'm just like, I've always been, you know, all in on that last hour, and it's just like, all right, now we're going. And like,
isn't this the one where the girl, like, she actively is like trying to get away at the end in like the van and stuff? Like, is this that one, or is that the second one? I can't remember. Like with where she does some smart things where she hits the reserve gas. She's like doing the thing with the windows to trap his hand. Like she's actually like trying to.
Yeah,
I can't.
think so.
And it's pretty good.
You're kind of when you're watching it, you're just like, this isn't complete trash. Like obviously, like I said, you're not really attached to anyone other than Jason, and you're not really even attached to him. Technically, you don't know nothing about him. He's just, he's got a face, but essentially he's a faceless, villain. But he's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like I'm all for it. So it's I just always had a blast with that. So going into part 4, this is kind of why I said earlier of I'm solidified with my opinions. And before I even knew the consensus on any of these movies, let alone specifically this one, I've had my opinion, and I am not a fan of this movie. I know this is arguably like a popular one amongst the fans. Every time I watch a video, everyone loves this, and I swear to God, I've seen this multiple times, 4 times. Every review on my Letterboxd, even back when I first saw it back in 2018 or whatever, I was always like, this is just not for me. And I've given it multiple times, and I watched it a couple months ago when I don't remember. I just did a rewatch, I guess, because I was finishing them, and I was like, I'm just bored, and I'm really surprised because it introduces Tommy Jarvis, which is, he's, you'll see later. I like his character, but it's just, and I love, Corey Feldman as a character, as an actor. So it's just like, I honestly do not know where the disconnect is with this. It's not Hell and Busted Doors, but this is a 3D graphics 1D character for me. This has just never been a favorite, and every time that I look on list or whatever, it's always at the top, whether it's number 1, number 2, maybe number 3 at the lowest for the majority. I'm just like, I'm just not there. And I have some hot takes. Like you're going to see, I have higher up movies that are, lower on the majority of people's list, but they're higher up for me. And this is a great example of me just, I'm just me with my opinions, and I'm confident with it. Like, it just doesn't hit for me. And I'm definitely curious to see how different we are.
Well, we are different. This one's top tier for me. One of my top 2. I think this one's great. I think it's one of the best directed ones of the whole series. I think Joseph Zito directs the hell out of this movie. I think it's atmospheric as hell. I think it's shot really, really well for a slasher movie. It's just kind of elevated, like the whole look of the movie, especially the last 30, 45 minutes, when it's actually the nighttime stuff and around the house. I just think it works. And I think the Jason in this one is really menacing. Like he really feels like a force of nature in this one. Like he's really dangerous. There's some really good kills. You got the Crispin Glover stuff in there, which is fun. The twins. I think you got some good solid characters in this one. There's some decent character work, I think, throughout it. And I just think it's one of the more well-made ones of the whole series, and I think they really went all out, because I truly believe they thought this was the last one, so they kind of went nuts. And I really dig the stuff with Corey Feldman at the end, like shaving his head, and like the stuff with the machine, die, like he just goes full nutty at the end, and I think it's great. And we could talk about kind of what they do with the character afterwards in the follow-up, but it kind of brought me back to the Danielle Harris stuff, of part 4 of that series, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So this one's pretty high up for me, man. It's like a top 2 for me, honestly. So it's Jason, This Is Your Mother territory. So hey, and I have 1 or 2 on that I'm way higher on than the internet. We'll get to it at some point. So I have my takes as well, but we'll see. So,
yeah, well, I'll let you continue that follow-up with part 5, the new beginning.
So part 5 has always been an interesting anomaly, because we all know it's the one with Roy, and it's the one that it's not Jason. Spoiler, whatever. If you haven't watched it, that's whatever. But this one is in almost so bad it's fun territory, if that makes sense. Like it's almost so goofy and silly with the characters that
fucking
it
dildo.
Just, I mean, the fact that like
the fuck up.
The dumb kid like has chocolate all over his face, and he like offers the dude like a chocolate bar, and the dude just goes "fuck that," just kills him with an axe. Like
you know the music.
bonkers.
You know the music in Halloween 5. The goofy music that doesn't make any sense. I feel like that music should be playing this entire movie.
It definitely should be like this whole movie. Any scene with like that redneck like couple or whatever, like anything where they're like eating stew and like doing dumb shit around their house, like it should just be like awesome. You know, it just should be like that entire thing. So I've grown to, it's not good, but I'll put it in sackhead territory because I've grown to appreciate how kind of fun and silly and stupid it is, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like I can have fun with the movie, even though I know it's pretty bad. But I will say that when people go like, oh, there's like, well, it's stupid because Roy, they don't give you any illusions that he's the character. I watched for it this time, and they do. They actually do. There is several things where when he first sees the kid on the gurney, when he's pulling him out, like they zoom in on him. They do this thing when the guy from American Beauty who shows up is like one of the other cops, like and Speed, that dude, like, and he goes like, I think we got us a psycho on our hands. They zoom in on Roy, and Roy gives like this side look. Like they do that a couple of times through the movie. So they're telling you flat out like who it is. You just don't really know that that's his kid till like the end or whatever that got killed. Basically. But like they pretty much tell you flat out if you're paying attention, like who's doing it, and then it's not Jason. But I really like that opening kind of nightmare thing at the beginning. Like I think that actually works pretty well. Like where they brought Corey Feldman, and apparently Corey Feldman had to do that like on a night off from the Goonies. Like it was in the middle of the Goonies shoot, and they got him for like one night and had to do that whole thing. But the guy who plays Tommy's okay. I mean, again, the characters are all right. Those redneck characters are really annoying. The chocolate bar kid is really annoying, but he gets murdered like immediately. So it's like, what are you gonna do? So I can appreciate it for kind of how bad, and it's sort of so bad it's good for me.
Yeah. So where am I gonna put this? I love this movie.
You serious? All right.
and I swear, and I'm saying this with legit seriousness. I did not know the consensus on this movie. My very first review of this was a better entry in the franchise, like back in 2019, before I even cared about rankings and lists, and other people's opinions on the franchise. Because like, I've never seen all the movies. I don't care about those people. I've always liked this, and like directly after 4 too, where it's just like, that one bores me. This one's fun. Even if it's for all the wrong reasons, I can have fun with it. I love the hillbilly mom and the son. And when he gets his head chopped off and all that stuff, and it's a blast, dude. I love what they do with Tommy's character of just kind of, so if Danielle Harris, if she's a mute, Jamie, she's a mute in part 5, Tommy, he's a nutcase in this one where it really affects him. And if you, like what you said, to go off, how it ended in 4, he's going crazy. That's how he would react when he gets older, because he's either going to be the new Jason or he's going to be sheltered and fucked up in the head. And they went with the fucked up in the head route, you know what I mean? Until the end, which, who knows where that would lead, or not lead. But anyway, not the point. I've had a lot of fun with this, and whether it's so bad it's good or whatever, it's always going to be at the top of this franchise for me because I can watch it and it's going to be.
I can tell you what's happened over the years, though. This movie does have a cult following, like it does.
Yeah.
The general thing is that it's bad, but I have a podcast to listen to where the one dude like fully has it as his second or third favorite of the series. Like he loves it. Like he's grown to just love how goofy and silly it is, and that it's just a breeze to watch. And so people are coming. I'm not fully on board where I'm like, it's one of my favorites of the series. It's great. Like I'm not there yet, but I've turned the corner to where I used to think it was bad, and now I can kind of have some fun with it, if that makes sense. I'll tell you one part I loved when the dude starts messing with Tommy, and he goes full like MMA on him, bro. Like he fireman carry takeovers him through the desk thing, goes into full mount and into ground and pound. I was like, whoa, dude knows how to fight. Where did he learn that? I was like, God damn, like homeboy can fight. And I was like, man, is he gonna fight Jason like just hand to hand? Like he might be able to take him. Like holy shit.
The brother character of the little kid, when they go visit him and he's just talking to his girl, he's like, bitch, what did I tell you? And it's just like, it's so fucking crazy.
It's so silly, yeah.
He's like, oh, the Mexican food's going straight to me. It's the chalupas or whatever. It's like, I'm fucking
it's so stupid, but it's fun. It is
exactly. Yeah. Now we're going into part 6, and let's just rip this Band-Aid off real quick. Where's that? All right, where's Jesus? Oh, it's this one. I think it's this one.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Boom. This is my favorite.
Well, you might as well, because I'm exactly the same. It's my number one.
It's my number one, like hands down.
Yeah, so put it up. We'll both talk about it, because goddamn, it's my number one too. This is my favorite
like
series.
This, I confidently gave this 5 stars on my last rewatch. Like this is like, if I ever consider putting this in my top 100, I won't be surprised in the future, because like, holy shit, this movie's awesome. I love everything that they do with Tommy's character. I love the relationship with the girl, and it's one of those things where it's a combination of he's damaged and also just kind of a bad boy that like turns her on. But and the cop's not completely oblivious, but he's also like hesitant at the same time. Like he's kind of good at his job, but also like, as an audience member, you're like, God damn it, trust him. Like we know what he's doing. And then Jason's back. It's full on zombie mode. It knows finally knows what it is. This is the movie where it's like, we're just going to do crazy shit. Like the scene in the RV when he fucking just like, let's just crash and go. He's like, well, I got nothing to lose.
yeah.
Your movie's bonkers and awesome. It's just
it's balls out. It's from the beginning, and the beginning plays, and it plays like a Universal horror movie, like a Frankenstein movie or something like. And that was the intention. Is that they literally stick a stake through him, and lightning comes down and zaps them, and it's great. And people have actually re-edited this scene in black and white online, and it's pretty cool actually. It kind of works. But yeah, like that's awesome. You go right into the 007 thing, which the 007 thing with Jason.
Oh yeah,
the 007 nod when he walks into the screen and does a little chop, and the paintball people and all the stuff with Tommy's great, because like we know he's right, but it's that typical like horror thing of like,
but it finally gives us a main character, but he's also a strong main character. Like he's doing good. He's not just a kid who got brought in at the second half. He's not just a mental patient. Like he's finally a strong character. So like this is the best of all the worlds.
But you also get why the sheriff is like, no, he came from a mental place. Exactly. Like he's nutty, he's crazy. Like Jason's dead. He's in the cemetery, whatever. Like you get all that. So like you're invested in all that stuff. Yep. Again, shot really well. That scene where he stands on the RV with the fire is like a beautiful shot. Like there's beautiful stuff in this movie. All the stuff in the lake with like the circle of fire and like the boat, like that's all really, really well done. It's extremely well made for like what you would call like a typical slasher. Like it's again, it's got some real like some real filmmaking behind it. Like they took it, like they're having fun, but they took like the filming of it seriously. Like you can tell they really put some thought into all this stuff. And I think it's really solid from start to finish. Like it's in my top 32. Like we did a tournament fight thing, me versus Andres Gallegos, like our top 32 like favorite horror movies, and it's in there. So like I love this movie. Totally.
Yeah, for horror, I'm just curious now, because since I finally bumped up to like a favorite, I'm trying to think where I had it in horror. I know it's up there, and it's one of those things where like this movie is just so much fun. It's my number. So I have a few different rankings. It's in my top 10. Michael, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, Chucky, Ghostface, like all those. My top 10 of that. So that's easy. It's my number one, Jason. Obviously, I'm stalling when I find my horror rankings. It's all right. Here's my horror. It's in my top 30 horror. Okay. So yeah, and
same for me. It's like in the 20s or 30s for me. Like I love it.
I actually have it a hair above Halloween 4, which is borderline my first favorite Halloween any given Sunday. Sure. It's just the look of Michael in 4 bothers me enough that
I know, and we talked about that. It's like that look is like the only thing that keeps it. It's like if it was just adjusted slightly, it'd be perfect.
And honestly, it's similar to that. The only thing keeping 6 from like being any higher is like, well, I don't really like the rest of the franchise like as a banger. Like this is the best of the best of the mediocre. So it's like, how do I compare apples and oranges? But yeah, so Jason Lives is a blast, dude. I have so much fun. It'd be a fantastic watch along type of movie. You know, watching reactions to it, like just hanging out, getting drunk. Like you can watch this in different mindsets and still have a blast with it. So yeah, easily
I think this is a great introduction movie for anybody that hasn't seen any of them. If you just wanted to have fun and still get like the beats of like a Friday movie, but also some good character work, like I think this is a perfect one to somebody.
Yeah, especially in today's day and age, the first 3 are probably boring for the majority of people. 4, they're not invested in the franchise to like care. 5, they don't get why people think that one's weird or bad. So it's like 6 is just you don't know about. You get enough information through dialogue to catch up. Previously on Jason. All right. So now I'm gonna let you start off with 7.
So part 7, The New Blood. This one is my one where I disagree with a lot of people. I love this movie too. I think it's great. It might be my 3rd favorite. I'm in a Camp Blood territory. I really, really like it. I just think, again, at this point, they're just throwing stuff against the wall, but I think it's super fun. This is the first one, we should say, where Kane Hodder took over, and it's his first foray out of the 4 that he did. The look of Jason rules in this movie with, like, the exposed spine from, like, being underwater from all that time, and, like, he just looks kind of rotted and, like, you know, but he's still chugging on like a true zombie. I think he's totally brutal. I love the sleeping bag kill. It's one of my favorite kills, you know, from the series.
You debated that, right?
Yeah, I debated that against Mar. Yeah, it truly is. I think the last like 20 minutes of this movie is so much fun. I mean, it's Carrie versus Jason. You know, with the girl. I mean, it's crazy. The premise is nuts with the telekinetic girl. I mean, it's Carrie. It totally is. But I think it's super fun, and it's something, again, unique to where at this point in the series, they're like, look, we've done the standard, like, Jason goes around and just murders everybody, you know, with like, I think it's trying something new, and like, there's always been kind of supernatural elements to this thing. I mean, there's no person that could take this much punishment and continue to live.
And he literally gets revived as a zombie.
He gets revived as a zombie with lightning, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that there could be like mutant people as well. Like, who knows? So I just think it's super, super fun. Their fight is great, and you know, I just don't mind some of the stuff in between, like some of the girl that gets like the birthday thing in her eye, like that's fun. Like there's some really good kills in this movie, and I think it has a good pace. And again, Kane Hodder is really menacing and great. So I like this movie a lot, man. It's up in that one of the upper tiers for me. So I dig it.
For me, this one is just like 4. I don't know, when they're the elements, like, so for every one good thing, there's 4 or 5 just who cares things for both of these. And that's why they're in that same tier where it's like, I do feel like it's a chore to like watch the entire 90 minutes for both these. And it's one of those where it's like, it's weird because I know there are a few, you know, cult fans of this one, you know, like you, where you're all into the kooky, and I'm not against it because 6 is, you know, a masterpiece damn near. So it's like, I'm not against the weird. It's just this specific weird. I feel like, I don't know, I just didn't connect to it, and it just
I can never pin down, like, that's why I don't go on your Letterboxd. I can never pin down like what you're gonna like and don't like. It's really hard. And all the shows we've ever done, I can't ever
predict
what you're gonna dig and not dig. Yeah,
that's why I love just my mind when it comes to films, where it's just like, I'm just me, and I don't let anyone's opinions, like, a lot of the times, like, even when for a brand new movie or whatever, I'll listen to the first couple sentences of a review, or just look at star ratings and like ratings just to see what people think of it, just see if it's good or bad in their opinion, and then I can form my own opinion. But I don't go into specifics because my mind works where it's like, I want to take in and just the actual film itself, and then I can formulate my opinion. I don't get, you know, I don't even get bogged down by expectations. You know what I mean? Like, there's films where, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm expecting this, but I didn't get that. That doesn't mean it's bad. Now let me judge what I got. And that's just how I am with all these films. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's a combination. So when I'm mastering my top 100 again for the Redux for 2022, and my 3 criteria are just watchability in general. You know, if I'm watching it, and if I'm focused on it, how I quote it, or, you know, how I just think about it outside of the watching, you know, whether it's quotes or just general
Sure.
conversations. And then if it gives me any emotion, whether it's laughing because it's comedy, or horror if it's doing its job, or if it's emotional. So I need those three things. So if for like part 4 and 7, those are in my 3D graphics 1D characters. Like I don't have any of those things, but I can admit that it's not like a completely terrible movie and like the worst of all time. So I obviously have it a notch above, and I do have at least one that is going to go down there. So we'll figure that out later.
I may or may not have anything for Hell and Busted Doors. We'll see.
That'll be interesting.
I may or may not. We'll see.
So that's where I am on part 7. I'm not going to close the door, no pun intended, on the fact that it could go up, but I can't imagine it going above Sackhead. So technically positive, my 3-star range,
Sure.
fresh. But yeah, like all the rest, I know exactly where they're at in terms of my hierarchy. But this is at the bottom, maybe mid at best. So going into a lot of people's least, well, I won't say least favorite. A lot of people at the bottom, like the consensus.
Yeah, right.
Similar to 5, not as high as 5, obviously, but similar to 5 in terms of I'm accepting it for what it's giving me, and I don't let the expectations of the title bother me. I am gonna go in Sackhead with Jason Takes Manhattan.
I'm exactly the same. So put it right there next to it. Yeah.
Like, dude, my when he kicks the dude off the roof into the trash can in his head and all that stuff, like that's the wacky stuff that I'm all in for. And it's like, dude, honestly, every opinion that I've ever heard on this film is but it's Jason takes a boat, and then he also goes to Manhattan for the last 10 minutes. Like, okay, but what are your thoughts on when he's on the boat? You know what I mean? Like, what give us your actual opinion on the film. Not
to me, the boat still gives it a unique setting we haven't seen yet. So, like, I'm okay with some of that because he's taking people out in like the galleys. He's doing like the club thing with Kelly Hu, and like he's right. It gives some unique setting, like the rock thing for the sauna. Like, there's some unique kills brought forth by the setting, you know what I mean? And they have to get there, in some way. So like, it's not like he just,
Manhattan's literally an island. So yeah, he didn't just elevate. He didn't just he's not Magneto and he's just up and down.
Right.
But honestly, my biggest thing why it separates itself from 4 and 7 for me, it's literally just nonstop. It starts and it ends and it just goes for 100 minutes. You know what I mean? And it just goes for what it's going for. And I have a good time with it. I don't have a great time. Once again, I'm not emotionally invested in really anything. But if this is a great example of like, if I can just put it in the background and then check in every once in a while and not be bored while checking it or be confused, then it's totally serviceable for like these types of franchise films. And I feel like that's a separation for the other one where it's like, I have to be fully invested in those bottom 2 for me to even potentially like some of the parts. Whereas in Jason Takes Manhattan, for better or for worse, I can just randomly check in at the 30-minute mark and just be like, oh yeah, look at that. That's so bad it's good, or it's actually kind of cool, or whatever. However I think about it, at least I'm able to have some sort of opinion on it and not have to be invested to maybe care about a few things. So that's the difference on me. But how do you think the consensus thinks of this film? Do you think it's
the consensus for sure? The consensus from what I've heard, and everybody, a lot of people just dismiss this one, and it's only because the title says Manhattan. He's barely in Manhattan. Well, yeah, but like also again, I just put the New Blood up in a thing, and like even though the Carrie versus Jason thing is like the last 15 minutes of the movie, it doesn't kill the whole movie for me. You know what I mean? Because he's not fighting the entire 90 minutes. Like again, I like I said, I go into it and I've gotten past that to where I watch the movie and I go, but it's still like pretty fun. Like the settings are fun. I still think it's shot pretty well.
It's got some decent lighting and
the boat thing is unique because there's not really anywhere to escape unless they dock somewhere. So they're kind of in the middle of the water, like where can't really run anywhere. So you're kind of stuck, and there's a sense of panic there. And then when they finally get there, it's like you do get some fun sequences. Like I think the stuff, the shot where he's in the middle of Times Square is a great shot. And that's real. Like that was pretty cool. And stuff where he's going up and down the subways is fun. And he's going through the bars. Like, and fun fact, the guy he throws up against the bartender guy is Ken Kurtzinger, who plays him in Freddy vs. Jason. Anyways, that's him. So unique little fun fact. But I mean, they had bigger ideas. The problem is, these movies are all like $10 million budgets. You know what I mean? It's like they wanted to do the Julius the boxing thing in Madison Square Garden, which would have been fun. They wanted to do a scene on the Empire State Building. They wanted to do a thing on the Brooklyn Bridge. But it's like you have to be realistic about, like, unless you have $100 million budget, you're not going to get any of that done. And none of these movies have $100 million budget. So it's like they did what they can. They shoot in Vancouver a little bit, here and there. I still think it's fun. I'm not as hot on like the final like toxic waste in the sewers thing is like weird to me. It's just kind of strange. Like it's just a very weird ending that doesn't kind of work for me. But other than that, I think it's a passable, decently entertaining time. You know what I mean? It's all right.
Literally,
it's right in the
like I
middle.
said,
It's all right.
you can similar to what I said about 6, where it's like you can turn this on and just watch it with friends, even if you hate watching it or you're laughing at it and getting drunk.
I could totally put this on while I'm doing laundry and chores around the house and still have a fun time.
And like I said,
you glance over to the kills,
you look over, you're like, oh, that scene. Let me actually watch this.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's that for me. I'm gonna rip this Band-Aid off. This one, I gave it this title for a reason. Jason Goes to Hell is hell. This movie sucks. I don't know exactly what you're gonna think. I know you have some weird taste in terms of like.
I have some unique takes on this one. Again, this is another one I rewatched, but I'll let you go first. So I
want to preface this by saying the reason this is my least favorite. This is my number 12, not because of anything to do with that's not my Jason or Bob. I don't care. I just don't. It's boring. It's ugly. It's stupid. It doesn't work. I would be cool with the body swap and stuff if like it was like well directed and executed and acted. Like if there was a through line that worked with this weird plot, I would be cool with it. But I just didn't care, dude. It literally is one of those things where I'm like, oh my god, dude, like it's just not good. Like it's not as bad as Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but it's towards the bottom in terms of like, I have a clear cut like bottom tier, franchise films, and this is down there. So this is how people think of like, which Freddy does everyone hate? Dream Child?
Freddy. Well, 5 is pretty low for a lot of people. That's Dream Child. Freddy's Dead is pretty low for a lot of people.
Whatever the one is where it's like the most common one, like this how I am, where it's like,
I think the two most common right now are Freddy's Dead and the remake are kind of like the lowest for people.
It's like,
I think.
And this is how I am, where I literally in my review, I'm like, oh look, internet, see, we can agree. Like I'm not a contrarian. I just have my own opinion, and sometimes it agrees, sometimes it doesn't. And this is one where I am all in with the consensus. This movie sucks. But where are you at with it? I'm curious.
So I've always had conflicting thoughts about this movie. It kind of goes up or down given whatever mood I'm in to watch it, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So on my most recent rewatch, which was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I found a lot of things to like in it, found some things I didn't like. So because of that, it's again right in the middle, like Sackhead territory. So, and I'll tell you the stuff I like. So I love the open. The open is great. It's shot really well. It's really cool. Like it's just the fact that it's like an FBI sting. It's just really fun. I think it's the look of Jason with like the mask, like buried into his face, and it's like growing around him. Like it's just awesome. Like I love that look of him. You get into the body swap stuff, but again, it's something new that we haven't seen
at the coroner's office or the hospital or whatever. Was that the first one? Like with the doctor, so mortuary guy?
It goes from that to like the mortuary thing with the guy from Rocky 5. Like, he's the first guy. Yeah, he bites into the heart thing. And I think the kills are fucking brutal in this movie. Like they're really good. Like when he cuts that girl in half in the damn, tent, while they're having sex, like that's pretty brutal. There's some cool stuff where it's like the body kind of wears out when he gets shot and beat up. Like they're still sort of following these weird rules. I really dig the Creighton Duke character, even though he kind of comes out of nowhere. I always like these movies sort of like Devil's Rejects, where there's a protagonist who's like actively hunting the threat, like to me, I like the Sheriff Wydell character in that movie. And I kind of like the Creighton Duke thing. Again, they're trying to expand the mythology a little bit and sort of at least whether or not you go with it, try to explain the supernatural aspects of it, something they're trying. So again, it's a breaking the formula movie. Yes, Jason himself is not in a lot of movies, but technically it's still Jason, but okay. He's just in like weaker bodies. But when we finally get to him at the end, I think it's a lot of fun. Like I dig the stuff where he gets pulled down to hell and the Freddy tease at the end. Like all that stuff is good. Again, the only things that kind of really hold it down, I think the main character dude's kind of a goober. Like I'm not really into whatever his name is. Like he's just kind of meh, like
A lot of
whatever.
diner stuff.
Yeah, I think the side characters are a little
Yeah.
more fun than kind of the main character is. Like the women are okay. I think it's still shot pretty well, but like the score sucks. That like dun, 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 like it's just really weird. It doesn't work. Like I don't know what the hell with everything went with that. But I just think there's things I liked about it throughout the movie. And the scenes I liked, there was enough, a little bit more than I didn't. So like I've come to be like it's all right. Like I don't think it's as bad as everybody kind of makes it out to be. Like personally, again, if you can, once you see the movie and get past that kind of like the Manhattan thing and kind of set that aside and then watch it again with kind of a reset expectation, I think it's okay.
Now, even though this doesn't factor into why I hate this movie, if this movie actually did take place in like hell and it was like all bonkers supernatural, then I feel like even if the plot was stupid, the acting was stupid, at least it's so like you're in, then like whatever. But like since it doesn't do that, you're actually accepting the characters for what's going on. And
Sure.
I mean, it does the Freddy thing at the end too, which is, cool. Nice little nod. And, we don't get that for, 13 years, 10 years.
8 years, I think, technically. 8?
Yes.
Yeah, it was still a while because
93 to 2003, so
it was in development hell.
Yeah.
They had a million different scripts. I've listened to podcasts about it. It was a whole mess of like trying
Well,
to
I mean, you look at it, 8 and or 9 and 10, they don't even aren't even. That's why they're not even Friday the 13th movies, because of distribution bullshit. That's
it's a weird thing when New Line and Paramount
1 through 8 only, and then these
that's
two
because New Line took over, so New Line has their own 3-disc set with like Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy and X and all that like all together. Yeah, it's weird. Like but my Scream Factory set has them all together. I don't know how they pulled it off. They got it all to it, but like that set has everything. So and like that's the one here makes for a great Christmas present, Henry. On sale a lot of Black Friday for about $80 right now. Pretty great set. I'm telling you, man, it's got everything from the original to the remake, man. It's good.
It does look really cool,
and it looks great on my wall. It's great. So I'm just saying, it's a good $80 is a pretty good price for like 12 movies on Blu-ray, and they all look great with a ton of extras. Like that's a pretty decent deal, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah,
but anyways,
but what I wanted to go, the last thing with this movie is if this franchise was like Ghostface with Scream, where it's like it's not a character, it's just an entity. And I feel like a lot of the complaints with even like Roy, and stuff like that, and like people would complain about the Jason stuff being a zombie because you could like there's having him be a character, you limit the rules, and you set rules just by making him a man essentially, and then however you go about it later, whatever. But like with Michael Myers, that's why a lot of people are getting mad, like, oh, he's so supernatural. Like, is he stupid? Is he not? Like, you don't have that argument if you just he's just someone wearing the hockey mask, like whatever. But that's the only thing with Jason Goes to Hell, where I'm like, that's a weird complaint of like, he's not Jason. I'm like, who is Jason? Like, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like,
try to define the Jason character with like traits, and it's a little difficult. It's like he's a brutal dude who kills and has an obsession with his dead mom. That's about it. There's not much else to it. I mean, this movie at least tries to do something with like the Voorhees family, and only by a Voorhees can he be killed, and it's like, it's whatever, it's trying at least to do something with it. So I can at least appreciate that when I go back and watch it. That's all.
All right. So we're into the final 3.
Sure.
And this is going to be interesting. I'm going to let you start with Jason X.
Jason X, Camp Blood. I love this movie. Super fun.
I already knew that's what
I have not made this a secret. Anytime it's come up on any kind of show, I just think I've gone to appreciate just how silly and fun this movie is. I just think it's a blast from start to finish. It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, none. I mean, even the beginning where he's like locked up in the military facility, it's like, well, when is this? Because he got dragged down to hell. Is it after, like, is it previous from that? Is it after that? Like, did he come back and went to I don't know. But like, I mean, I like the concepts they talk about where they've like tried every method of execution to kill him and he just won't die. We gassed him.
The simulations, that's a fun thing.
We gassed him, we electrocuted him, we shot him, like we hung him, he won't die, so we're just gonna freeze him. You know what I mean? Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. But it's at least, again, it's something new. Like, it's in a different setting to make for some fun kills. Like that cryogenic face kill is one of the best kills in the whole series. Like, bar none, one of the most unique, cool things. he's killing people throughout this thing. It's science fiction. They're doing it's Jason in space.
Literally.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean they sent him to space, and it was kind of inevitable with all these franchises. You go to space eventually. It's really dumb. I love Uber Jason, Terminator Jason at the end with all the cybernetic stuff. I think it's just so
that's
out there
RoboCop,
crazy.
Jason.
Yeah, RoboCop, with the android chick, shooting him up, and then he comes back together with Nano. It's fun, and he's in the dumb, the hologram thing with the girls. Let's get drunk and have premarital sex, whatever. Like, it's fun. Like, it's just silly and stupid and fun. I just think this movie's a blast, and it's like 85 minutes, dude. It flies by, and I don't see how you can't have fun with this movie. Honestly, when you sit down and just watch it, I think it's a great time. So yeah, that's me. Come on, Henry, have a heart.
I'm sorry, man.
Come on, have a little fun. Have some drinks and watch this movie. You'll have a great time.
Maybe, but what I will say though is I do technically have more fun in this than New Beginning and Part 4, which is everyone's favorite on the majority.
Cool, it's in Saka territory, right in the middle for you, then, right?
I didn't say that. It's my thing is, if it didn't look like a TV movie, like if it didn't look like a generic Star Trek ripoff sci-fi TV movie, then maybe that would help me like be invested and like that's the one thing that we've been able to compliment all these movies up to this point is it looks kind of cool or it looks good or there's some good shots. This one, it looks like a set the entire time, and that takes me out of it. So it's already hard. I have to, in order to be brought back down to all right, let me have some fun with this. I need there to be some good acting also, but the acting is atrocious. So you can't look bad and have atrocious acting. So then when you get to the wild kills, at that point, it's just like, yeah, that's fun, but I'm so taken out of it when it happens that like I need to similar to all what I just said about 4 and 7, where it's like for every one good thing, there's 4 mad things, and then this one for every great thing, there's 2 or 3 bad things. So like it balances out, but there's actually technically some great things in this one. So that's what brings it up just a hair for me, but it is still technically, down there for me. And it's one of those ones where I haven't watched it drunk yet. I will admit that I have not watched it drunk yet.
This movie, I used to think the same thing, Henry. This movie will grow on you. I'm telling you, you will get an itch. You will watch it. You will continue to go back to it. I'm telling you, this movie will grow on you like a nanobot.
That is fair. I actually believe you. I do believe you, but it is ironic that I have this feeling about this one, even though from jump I thought I've always really liked 5. You know what I mean? That's a weird thing where it's like how I feel about 5 is how you feel about Jason X. You know what I mean? And that's an interesting parallel where it's like it's so different, but also the same results. You know what I mean? Goes where it's like, so imagine like when I talk about 5, you just pretend I'm talking about X, and we'll be able to agree.
Sure. And also, I have a little sentimental value. This was the first Jason movie I saw in the theater, so that's cool.
That's one thing. I have no nostalgia for any of these. I didn't watch any of them as a kid, so I don't have. I've as a grown man who. When I first started watching him, I wasn't even really a horror fan. Now I'm a diehard horror fan. So it's like I'm getting into the bullshit. I'm willing to accept the bad because now I'm just here for the horror and the goofiness, and I understand why people are fans of these, but I'm not quite there on some of these shit. So.
No, and again, I didn't have really nostalgia for the series because I didn't get into it till I was in my mid-teens. Renting them on video. So I didn't grow up with these movies. I'm not that old, so I didn't grow up with that stuff. I mean, the first horror movies I ever really saw were just random things on TV, some of the nightmare movies and stuff just seeing stuff on TV. Jason X, I like it. It's fun.
There you go. And so I'm gonna start with Freddy vs. Jason. This is one where remember this is a Friday 13th tier technically, so I'm gonna put this.
You gotta look at it from the Friday point of view, is what you're trying to do. Yeah.
I'm gonna put this in Sackhead above 2.
Okay.
Because the acting's ass. That 2000s bad acting in terms of you're not even really trying. You're just kind of cashing in on the stuff where it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is perfect. This one's not. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones where it's like some of it works, some of it doesn't. But with that said, everything else franchise wise is pretty fucking cool. It looks good. We're back to looking good, which is important. Yeah. It's a pretty great premise if you're being honest, Freddy manipulating and stuff, but that's Freddy at the core of it, you know what I mean? So he brings that up a little bit. So I like Jason more in Manhattan, so I think that's why I'm gonna go with that above. But yeah, I think this is a good time. I can literally, similar to what I said about Takes Manhattan. Really, I can just have it on and then just check in every once in a while and have fun with it. I can fall asleep to this. Like, so fun fact, 13 Ghosts is a 5-star movie for me because of just how weird, wild.
Okay. I wouldn't put it that high, but I like it. I think it's underrated.
Well, what I'm saying is though, it's one of those movies where I'm just fully in on the craziness. Whereas in this one, like, it's so close. You know what I mean? I feel like one day I could switch, you know what I mean? But I didn't watch this growing up, so I don't have the nostalgia for it. So I'm on the surface level. I'm neutral grounds when I started. So like I like it, but I don't know where I'm at yet in terms of like, is it going to be like a cult like favorite for me? But it is a fun time. Seeing Kelly Rowland's weird, you know.
Like, yeah, that's a total time capsule, like 2003 thing where you're just like, oh yeah, she was a thing for like 3 years, right? You know, like and
Kelly Rowland, Trey Songz
they got the Jason Mewes like ripoff character, like literally dressed exactly like JFJ and sound like exactly and talking
so
exactly
it feels,
like him.
It has moments where you're like, all right, this is that 2000 shit that I was talking about. But you know, that's whatever. Who cares? Like that's I'm still judging it based on what it's given me, not the cliches and not the weird stuff. But with that said, it's borderline. It's close. Sure. Where are you?
So it's also in Camp Blood, kind of near Jason X territory for me, because again, I just think it's really entertaining, and this movie moves. I don't think there's like a dull moment here, like other than one or two things with like the main girl's like backstory, which is weird, you know, like a couple of flashback stuff is awkward. But like from the get-go with like the premise of Freddy and hell, like using Jason as like a muscle to conjure up fear. Like, I think that's a cool premise, you know, like they're kind of, he wants to work together, but you know, he's taking all the credit, you know, he's taking all of his kills. He's killing him before Freddy has a chance to like mess with him and get enough power. Like, I think that's fun. And him getting frustrated. And, you know, I dig all that stuff. I think the kills themselves are really stylish and cool. The bed stuff is great. You know, the stuff where he's in the cornfield on fire, like, is awesome. Just walking through the thing on fire with the flaming machete, like, just slashing people left and right is just really cool, you know. I just think it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't see how you can't have fun with like the last 20-25 minutes of the movie when they're throwing down. Like, I just think I've gone back and watched that last act of that movie so many times, from him, you know, fighting him in the dream world, and then when he brings him into the real world, and you kick on the heavy metal music, and then like it's on now, bro. Like, it's awesome. I just think it's as epic as they could have made it, you know, given like the budget, given the, you know, how much they could do and how much Robert Englund could kind of do too, because he's older. But still, I think they did the best they could with it. It's just a fun throwdown, man. I dig it. It's about as good a crossover as I think we could have kind of hoped for, given how much development hell this movie went through. You know what I mean?
And like I said,
it's about
the plot, the premise is cool. Like, the premise is awesome, actually. So, like, regardless of the execution, the premise is so cool that you're willing to accept what you're given. Like, this, for me, this is a great double feature with Bride of Chucky in terms of like.
Well, funny you should say that. You know the connection?
Yeah, the director. It's just
same guy. So it makes sense.
You feel but I'm saying you feel that though. You know what I mean? Sure. Where it's just like, this is of its time, and you know that. And if you accept that, you're either all in or you're all out. And you know, I'm not quite either. And which is ironic, because usually with these types of ones, it's one or the other. So I'm right in the middle. But like you said, good time.
So we'll talk about Bride of Chucky pretty soon.
Yes, we will. We will. And I'm excited for that one because I love that franchise. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Friday 13th. Derek Meary.
So, I'm sorry, I don't know whose turn it is. My bad.
I'll just start. It's easy. This one, boom.
Wow. Okay.
Right there. Right. My second favorite. Okay. The only thing keeping it away from my number one, because I think this is the best Jason. The only thing to keep it away from my number one is the fact that the third act, the transition going into the third, when you find the sister like down the basement, all that stuff. It has the pacing slows down for like 10 minutes. But this movie before that is like nonstop. I really like, what's his name? Trevor? Is that the main dude? Trevor?
The asshole guy?
Yeah.
Or the other guy?
Trent. Yeah, Trent. He's a cock. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where the more that I've fallen in love with Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, the more that I'm willing to accept characters like that. And that's why that his character's growing on me. I really like the back, like the first 20 minutes, the opening, that is the best. Like, if the rest of the movie was that, this movie's probably in my top 50. Like the first act, or the first, you know, the opening, the prologue or whatever, is perfection for Friday the 13th horror. Like, that's what you want from this type of movie. It sets up a story, sets up a character, it sets up some kills, it does everything. Like, it's a great short story. after that, it's really good because I love the connection with the sister and the search and all that stuff. Like I said, Derek Mears is Jason. And like, I love that he's like a badass, and it does a great thing where like kind of it's a remake, but it's a requel in a sense where it's like, hey, let's just get all the stuff from earlier that like everything that I didn't like about 4, it does some stuff here. Everything that I didn't love about 2, the Sackhead stuff, like, you know what I mean? It does a great job of like building up all that stuff, and you get enough backstory. Like it trusts you to know the franchise because it does the, Jason, I'm your mother. Like it does that, and this putting on the sweater. It does, a little bit of both, but like just like in 2, you know what I mean? So it's like it does a lot. That's just a lot of fun, and it's it's a good time for me. It's brutal and it's a blast, and the first 20 minutes is perfect. Where are you?
So this was a big wild card for me. I had not seen this movie in a long time, so I popped it on. It was on HBO Max. I popped it on. It's 3D graphics and 1D characters territory for me. I'm not crazy about this movie.
Wow.
Because I'll tell you
I thought this would be easily
as more of a fan of the series, wouldn't you say, than you? Would you give me that? I'm probably more of a long-term fan than you.
Oh, yeah.
This one just feels like corporate greatest hits slammed into one movie. It's like 10 different movies slammed into one. It's like, hey, we're making a new Friday the 13th movie, so make sure you have the mom thing from the original movie. Okay, yeah, make sure you have that. Make sure you have the kid Jason jumping out of the water. We have to have that. Make sure you have him finding the hockey having the sack on his head, because that's in part 2, so make sure you have that. Make sure you have him finding the hockey mask in a weird place. Okay, make sure you have that. Make sure you have somebody looking for their sister, which they did in another one of the movies, like one of the previous sequels. Like, make sure you have that plot line, because that's probably the best plot line. Make sure you have an asshole character like from this movie. Make sure you have the one other guy. Like, it's like we gotta slam everything from like parts 1 through 4 like into one movie instead of taking our time and developing something unique. It's like, let's just slam in all the greatest hits. It feels like such a corporate made movie to me. And like the difference between this and like Texas Chainsaw, like the remake that I like from like 2003, is that one still feels like almost like an indie movie. It feels like slimy and dirty and like all that kind of stuff. This one, it's almost too polished. Like it's too clean. It's like all the characters are too fuckable. It's like too crisp, like there's no grittiness to the movie. I don't feel the dirtiness of anything, even when they're in his like layer down beneath. Like, I don't feel like I can smell that scene. I don't feel like I can, like, I mean, there's a difference. Like, if you know what I'm saying, like that second movie when she puts on that sweater, like I'm just like, ew, no, don't do that. Oh, the head is right there. Oh, gross. Like, I can feel that. I don't.
Yeah, and that second one, it looks like a seance just happened with all the candles.
And I mean, I understand he's like surviving, but it's weird that he like takes a hostage for like a month. To me, that's just odd. I don't understand that that premise, like why she's alive at all. Like, it's because she looks like his mom. Okay, weird. I just there's just character beats and things. I don't get super behind the Jared Padalecki character. I was like, okay, fine, but he like. There's a stretch for me in this movie after that prologue for like 30 minutes where I am bored shitless.
What are you like, on that 30? Like, do you agree with me that that's some of the
opening? The opening is pretty good. Like, I'll give you that. The opening is good. That's what kind of saves it for me from the bottom tier. Honestly, is the opening. I think the opening is good. But like, I think the rest of the movie is just so cookie cutter corporate, like post millennium slasher. Like, it just doesn't have it doesn't feel like it has any character or a voice. It doesn't feel like it has a unique feel, and it's like the same director as like the Texas Chainsaw thing. So like, I don't know what happened. I think it was just too many grubby hands.
His name is Nesper or
Marcus Nispel. So I just don't feel like it's the same. Like, I don't know. It feels like there's too many hands in the cookie jar. Like, for me, like it's just too much trying to slam.
I will admit that with this being the same director, it is shocking that it's not like even higher. But yes, it's the elements. It does. Obviously you're knocking it for this reason, but it has this movie has my favorite Friday the 13th stuff in all of them, except for, Tommy Jarvis. That's the only thing that's missing in this movie. If not, that would probably be above even 6, just because it's like so polished. It's, it has that good horse up. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like you said, that's you being the fan and one of those bummers. I was like, why?
I think it's more of and I get it. Like, people.
This is your Last Jedi.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of. But the problem is there was no follow-up or anything. So it's this weird anomaly where it was like, it was, I guess, supposed to be. But again, where do you go from here? You did the greatest hits, so it's like I would have liked to have seen a follow up, because now that you've gotten the greatest hits out of the way, where do you go from here? And they never had a follow up. Like if it had a follow up and maybe it had more of a unique voice or a unique direction, I could have rolled with it. But to me, I just watched this movie and I'm like, yep, that's from that movie. That's from that movie. Especially rewatching a lot of these before the show. Yep, that's from that movie. That's from that movie. That movie. That movie. And it's just like, do we have anything unique to say here? Do we have anything unique going on? Like, not really. It's just kind of there. And
isn't it weird that
I just didn't find it that entertaining?
The amount of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies we've had since the 03 movie, and
oh my god, it's insane.
The lack of Friday 13th since this one, it's just like this franchise is easier to make. You know what I mean? You can literally change.
It's literally a rights thing with the one guy who like owns the story rights or something, like who's holding it up from like Sean Cunningham. And I know they finally cleared it up, like they're making that Crystal Lake TV series or whatever, like on Peacock, like is what is the rumor right now. So it'll be something. But there was rumors that the follow-up was going to be a found footage movie.
Ooh.
So, which again, whether or not you're all in on that, and I know it was trendy at the time, I kind of dig found footage movies. And again, I think it would have been kind of unique and kind of cool, like to see things from.
Now I want to do a battleground with this. I want to pitch a Friday 13th movie, me and you.
Yeah, I mean, they literally like, but see, I would be like just agreeing with you, so I would lose because I want that movie. I would have liked that movie. I love found footage movies, so I would have been like, yeah, no, I'm all in. Henry gets the point. I'm in. Like, I want to see that movie. So like, it's just one of those things. I just feel like it's such a studio movie. I just don't feel like it has any.
I give you that.
Any like stamp of like all these other movies. To me, 3 feels different from 6, which feels different from 4, which feels different from 2. Even though they're all like the same general outline of a story, they all have like a something to them that makes them cool, like, or have their own feel, like I'm trying to put it in
3 has the bikers, 4 has the house, 2 has,
I mean, they all just have a unique look and flow and something going for them that sets it apart, and I just don't feel like this one does that. It just feels like those prototypical like 2000s remakes, again, aside from Texas Chainsaw, which I like, but like a lot of those just kind of feel like the same movie. Like I don't know, I hope I've tried to at least say like why I don't, and again, I don't totally hate the movie. I watched it.
I mean, I don't think the internet's going to shit on you either. Like I do know that for a lot of people, it's in the second territory anyway. So it's not like you're that far off. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a few people like me that it's at the top because you're as all in for just the non.
I did watch a few of the rankings. One other guy who's like a huge horror fan had this one near the top with 4, oddly enough. So he was like kind of with you and kind of not. Yeah. He had like this one and 4 at like the top. It was weird.
If it's Cody Leach, then that's probably I know
whoever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I like him a lot. He's the same. He's the same way where it's like when I watch him, I'm like I believe, even if whether I agree or not, I believe that he believes.
Sure.
And that's important to me. So there we go. All right. So do you have
if I need to write 6 is definitely number 1 for me. Okay. So it's 6 and 4. So exactly where that is. For the next tier, I would go I would go
7X and Freddy vs. Jason.
I would go Freddy vs. Jason would be my top of those. I just think that was super fun. I would go part 7 over 10. And then part 2 at the last, just because I watched it most recently, so I'm not as enthusiastic about it, but I really liked it. And then I would go probably
5 of them in here. Holy shit,
dude! I might go 5 and 8 over like 1 and 3 for me, and then have Jason Goes to Hell where it is, kind of at the bottom. Okay. Yeah. And then I would put. I only have the 1 in the other tier.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Yeah. I told you I don't have anything in the downright dog shit territory. I don't. I think they're all at least watchable. I'll say that. So yeah.
I mean, Goes to Hell might go up. Maybe I'd probably not.
I would say again, much like Jason X, give it some time. I've watched this. It's the one I keep going back to kind of look for things to like about it, if that makes sense. Sure. Like I kind of get drawn back to it every 2 or 3 years. I go back and watch it and kind of reevaluate it. You know what I mean? So like give it a year or 2, maybe pop it back in with some fresh expectations and give it a watch. I'm not saying it may go up, it may not. I don't know, but
that's fair.
Give it a look.
So for me, easily Jason Lives my number one.
Mhm.
It's a 5-star movie. Friday 13th is and Part 5 are my 2 and 3. They're 4-star
Okay.
movies, but they're definitely high. You know, it's more of a I like the Friday 13th for the wildness, but it's not perfect. And the Part 5 I love it just because it's so
It
bad.
sounded to me like you like part 3 more than part 1, just slightly.
Yeah,
It's what
yeah,
it
I get.
sounded
Yeah,
like.
it's
Because
that end.
you said that last hour
They
was a banger
border.
for you.
Yeah,
So yeah.
they like I said, they rotate. So I'll agree that yes, I'll go that.
Mhm.
And then I like Manhattan just because I like the consistency of Manhattan. And Freddy
Sure.
vs. Jason, I need to be in the right mood to be accepting of it. And then part 2, it's just it feels like a rehash of 1, but doesn't have the cool twist essentially. So that's why it's
Mm.
a whole tier lower. X watchable technically 4. It's a bummer. It really bums me out because like I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't like it, and it's crazy. Like when I first got introduced
Yeah.
to these movies, that was like the one, you know. And I'm not saying it was like expectation or nothing like that. I just happened to just disagree. And then Part 7 is more of just like maybe it'll grow on me. And then Jason Goes to Hell. So there we go. That is
Yeah.
fine. So this was our next episode of this, and then we haven't decided if we have enough time to do Final Destination right now because it's going to be quick. We'll do a little behind the scenes talk, and if not, we'll do it later this week, and we'll decide. But it's only 5 movies, so we'll be able to go through that real quick. So with that said, make sure you check out everything Austin's doing over the Movie Hero Network. Tournament Fights are doing a lot of favorite movies right now.
We're
Action,
recording a
tournament,
Patreon episode
franchise.
tonight. That's a Patreon exclusive. So we're on Patreon. If you want to see best wrestling entrance themes tonight on Tournament Fights, where we can play all the themes on Patreon,
Yep.
we're going to do that. So that'll be fun. And yeah, we've been doing a lot lately. So go check it out. Yeah.
There you go. And then I started up Jeopardy over here. Started up just talking about films. This and then what else I just started doing? I just blanked right now.
Well, you're still trying to wrap up your tournament, I think. So eventually, at some point, right?
There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm busy at work right now, so John and Will are taking that over.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha.
I'm letting them handle that. But it's one of those things when you're a little sick, you're like, I don't even remember what I'm doing.
Yeah. You're like, I just want to blow my nose.
Yeah, exactly. Brackets is something we started because
those are fun.
that's how we compare with Tournament Fights. What you do is you guys like the complete chaos and the randomness of it, and build a bracket over there. It's literally called Build a Bracket for reasons. Like you're building up a theme, and now let's just discuss.
Yeah.
It's more meant to be, instead of like finding a winner, it's more of like let's just have a random excuse to talk about 32 movies. So it's just easy to do it that way. So that's a fun comparison. Nice double feature there with your channel. So with that said, my name is Henry Confidential. That is Austin Peshal. This was the Friday 13th ranked and tiered. Make sure you guys go check out some sacks and some heads and some hockey masks.